Today, we saw the VIX spiking up once again. The fear and greed index still unable to get out of neutral territory. Now, yesterday, I warned you guys about Hindenburg's research and its effect on super microcomputers. They're basically saying they are having accounting red flags. And then today, what do we see? Super micro stock rocked by disclosure of accounting concerns. Now, if you own this stock, this is not something that you want to see. And today, we saw SMCI closing down 19.11%. We look at this out here on the daily chart. We got a little bit of a hammer candle. There's some buyers still clinging for hope that maybe, just maybe, this is not true. However, today during the live stream, we talked about this chart and you can see the parabolic move it's had on the way up, and now all the way up here from all-time high down to the current price, it's down 63% from all-time highs. And then we look today, then we look at nvda. It's had a very similar parabolic rise. Is nvda about to come crashing lower or go up to all-time highs after they report their earnings? Now today we come over and take a look at TNX, which is the 10-year yield. And I want you guys to pay very close attention to something real quick. If we simply grab a trend line, we draw it down like this, we grab another trend line and we go ahead and we mark off the lows. What do we have? You can see we have this triangle-ish pattern. Now, which way are we going to break? Is it going to break to the upside? That's what that pattern is suggesting. However, if we do break to the downside, that would favor the bulls in the market. If we start breaking to the upside, that is going to favor the bears in the market. And let's not forget, we still have several gaps below us that still need to come back and get filled. Now we come over and look at how the indices fared across the board. The Dow was down 159 points. The NASDAQ was down 198 points. S&P 500 was down 33 points. And the Russell 2000 was down 1.42. Now we come over and look at advancing issues versus declining. We had 70.9% of issues declining on the day. Then as we come over and we look at the sectors, we can see every single sector was in the red except for financials, and it was barely in the green. If we come over and look at XLF real quick, we can see today, what do? We spiked up, we came back down. We did not close at the highs of the session. This is troublesome, especially after we've already had an extended move on the way up. Is this the beginning of a potential stock market correction? We're going to see stocks starting to come back down, potentially filling in some of those lower gaps. Now we look at the volatility index, we see it spiked up a bit today. And as we come over here and we look at this on the 30-minute chart, you can see just rocket ship on the way up. We came down a little bit in the afternoon, but then formed a hammer candle. We see the VIX was actually up 11% on the session. So why is that important? Wherever the VIX is plus or minus 10% on the day, that signals within the next 1 to 2 days, we're likely going to have an inverse reaction in the market. So since the VIX was spiking up today, that indicates that tomorrow or Friday, the stock market's likely going to have an up day. If the stock market has an up day, it's going to be on the back of NVIDIA's earnings, and we're going to come taking out all-time highs. Now, when we look, Chewy had earnings out before the bell this morning, which we'll look at here in just a moment. After the bell, we're still waiting for NVIDIA, CrowdStrike, Salesforce, and Affirm. Then we look at the expected moves. Firm's expected to move plus or minus 16%. NVIDIA plus or minus 10 to 12%. CrowdStrike plus or minus 11%. And Salesforce plus or minus 8%. So when we come over and look at Chewy, we see Chewy was up 11% on the day. But if we actually look from the closing price all the way up to the high, Chewy was actually up 18% on the session at the highs. So what's that going to mean if NVIDIA is down or up another 12%? That's going to have a huge weighting on both the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. Now, when we come over and look at Salesforce, we can see a big wick up, big wick down. We're essentially exactly where the market was. Then we come over and we look at Affirm real quick. Let's see, Affirm after hours trying to spike up here just a little bit, probably on those earnings announcements. Then we come over and look at CrowdStrike, big wick to the downside, only to come all the way back up and then come a little bit off the high. If we actually look from the low of this candle all the way up here to the high, that is a range of roughly 10% in one single 5-minute candle. So it's going to be interesting to see how these stocks actually close out come 8 o'clock. And we are still awaiting the earnings out here for NVIDIA. NVIDIA has the potential for some huge moves out here in the stock market, which brings us to the story right here. Wall Street is jittery about CrowdStrike earnings, but things may not be so bad. Now, if CrowdStrike earnings, if the market perceives CrowdStrike earnings to be good, that is also going to be good out here for the stock market. Then we go on and look at Salesforce earnings. Is Is there another cut to the outlook in store? If so, that's probably not going to be very favorable for the stock. So it's going to be very important to see what comes about from the conference call. Then we look right here, NVIDIA stock drops ahead of earnings. However, is that nothing more than a buying opportunity? Was NVIDIA today doing nothing more than playing possum? And what I mean by that is NVIDIA rolled over, came back up, started to come back a little bit. Was that nothing more than a buying opportunity? We saw NVIDIA down 2% on the session, and we're gonna have the answers here in just a bit. But first, we come over and look at the economic calendar for tomorrow. This is going to be important. Tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m., we have preliminary GDP numbers coming out. We have the weekly unemployment claims numbers coming out. Then at 10 a.m., we have pending home sales. So if you guys join me during the live stream tomorrow during the New York session, remind me about the 10 a.m. news item. I do not want to get caught in a trade. Now I want to make everybody aware, Apex having an 80% sale off all their valuation accounts, $35 reset fees, passed in as little as 1 day, and they've extended $85 lifetime activation fee on all accounts. If you want to take advantage of this offer, use the link in the description box down below and use promo code Mike at checkout. Now, as we go over and look at the dollar index today, we can see the dollar index was on the rise, kind of a bullish engulfing candle. Dollar index up 55 cents on the session. MACD indicator, however, has not started to turn on the daily chart. And on the 4-hour chart, you can see we've already been on the move back up. And this is going to be paramount that we see the dollar index continue to push up. Otherwise, once that MACD indicator gets towards the zero line, that could be nothing more than a recharge point for another leg lower. The dollar is going to be under pressure as the Fed is going to embark on an aggressive rate cutting campaign. We come over and take a look at the precious metal gold. Gold was down a bit today, but there is a little bit of hope out there for the bulls. We can see we have a little bit of a wick on the bottom of that candle, and we still have the ABC projection up here at 2,586.2. I'm still expecting that level to be taken out. You can see along the way, low, higher low, higher low. And if this is the low as we start to push back up, this will be another higher low. This is still showing the trend is intact at this moment to the upside. Then we come over and look at crude oil. Crude oil was down a little bit today as well. Crude oil spiking down, but however, we have a buying tail on the bottom of this candle. If crude oil starts to firm up right here, that could actually set up an A to B equals C to D pattern, which could bring us right up here to about $80, something we most certainly do want to pay attention to. Now, as we turn our focus over to the small caps real quick, small caps today, basically a candle of indecision, wick on the top, wick on the bottom, not a whole lot to see. MACD indicator is still crossed to the upside, but we do not have the same momentum that we had over here. So just be mindful of that. When we look over here at the Dow, we have a wick on the bottom of the candle and a wick on the top. However, will we be able to push up and out and make another new all-time high? We are hovering right near all-time highs. It would not take much to push the Dow up and out. Then as we come over and look at the QQQs real quick, we see we had a little bit of a roll effect today. The Qs were down 1.13%, and we got right into the top of the gap. We rejected back up. Now the question is, tomorrow, do we start coming back down, potentially filling the gap? And again, NVIDIA is going to hold the keys to that. As we look out here on the 4-hour chart, we see the MACD indicator already starting to roll over. And if we do continue to roll over, keep an eye on 461.92. That is going to be an area of interest. Out here on the 30-minute chart, the MACD indicator now is trying to cross on the way up. And I want you guys to focus right over here towards this minus development area. I'm going to go ahead and draw this out for you guys real quick. That's going to come in something like this. This one should act as a magnet. And then two, we want to watch out for potential reversals off of that area. So if we come up into it, we start hesitating, watch out, we might get a little rejection back down, maybe down towards this point of control, or at minimum value area high. Now, when we come over and look at the futures markets real quick, notice we were able to take out that untested value area high, which that rule came into play. I told you guys when we closed outside of it, within the next 1 to 2 weeks, we should take that level out. Today, that level has been taken out. We also completed the ABC pattern to the downside. Then this afternoon, we had a minus development area drawn out right up here. We got the knee jerk back down, so we went ahead and took that level off. But looking out here on the 30-minute chart, we also have the case where we can have a left shoulder, head, right shoulder right here for an inverse head and shoulders. And we want to keep an eye on this minus development area, which we were talking about during the live stream. Will NVIDIA's earnings get the NASDAQ shooting up towards that price point? We look at the volume profile levels real quick. We have value area low coming in at 19,279.50. The point of control will come in at 19,422.00. Value area high will come in at 19,539.00. Now, right now, we're dead smack in the middle of value. However, after NVIDIA earnings come out, that could change the tone here just a bit. Now, as we come over and look at the SPY, keep in mind, we saw that gap below us. We did not come into that gap. But at the same time, we're not that far away from all-time highs. Keep in mind, with the VIX being up over 10%, tomorrow or Friday could be an update in the market, and that could be exactly what the SPY needs to make new all-time highs. As we look out here on the 30-minute chart, notice we have a very elongated profile for today, closing right within where value is. Now, when we look at this, we have a huge minus development area above us and below us. We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow morning during the pre-market prep, part of the morning live stream. Then as we come out here and look at the futures markets, notice we dipped down today. We did not make it down to this high volume area. Then we started to come right back up. And then as we look at the daily profiles, notice we had this minus development area right here that we drew out right before lunch. We came up into it. Bam, we knee jerked right back down. We came up to it again. We got a reaction. We want to keep an eye on this secondary minus development area above us, somewhere about 56.30 to about 56.32. First time the market makes it up to there, I expect some type of reaction. Either we go sideways, we pull back slightly. So just be mindful of that. That could also act as a magnet to attract price. But first, we need to get back above this minus development area over here. We look at the volume profile levels. We have value area low coming in at 5584.75. The point of control coming in at 5607.25, and value area high will come in at 5630.75. And again, things are likely going to change once NVIDIA's earnings come out here today. Now, if you guys want to learn a 3-step approach to trading trend continuation, make sure to watch this video right here.